Dear learners, I welcome you all to the higher module on Institutional Management for Entrepreneurship. We will focus on Unit 4, Intellectual Property Right, Technology Transfer and Commercialization. This is part 3 of the video series entitled Ip Valuation, Creating and Managing a Commercial Strategy and Patent Aggregation. The contents of the presentation are Introduction to Ip Valuation, different Ip valuation methods, creating and managing a commercial strategy and patent aggregation. Now learners, we all are familiar with the word valuation. The process of valuation is the art or a process of estimating the value. Then what is Ip valuation? Valuation of an intellectual property is the estimation of the future value of the intellectual property at hand. Now, there are different types of Ip valuations. These are divided into two types: quantitative method and qualitative method. Quantitative method gives an estimation of the monetary value of the Ip asset, and qualitative method provides a value guide by rating and scoring the Ip asset in question. This rating and scoring is based on the various important factors that can influence its value. Now, in the quantitative approach, we have three different methods: cost based method, market based method and income based method. Let us understand these three methods. Cost based method. Cost based method is based upon the fact that there is a direct relationship between the costs incurred for the development of an intellectual property asset and the final value of this asset. The cost based method measures the value of an asset by the cost required to replace that asset with a similar or an equivalent asset. That means, what cost is involved if instead of that particular Ip asset you go for another equivalent Ip asset. That is what we understand by the cost based method. Now, these cost based methods are further of different types: cost trending method, replacement cost method and reproduction cost method. The details of all these are given in the e-content of this unit. Market based method. Now, as the name implies, in this approach, a valuation is done based on the market value by reviewing the comparable market transactions of the Ip asset similar to the asset in question. That means, now we will evaluate it on the basis of the market. Now, to be certain that the market transactions are equivalent, a lot of data, a lot of information is required related to the price, the scope and the terms and conditions associated with the sale or the exchange of the Ip in question. The next method is income based method. The income based method calculates the present value of the expected future income flow which is expected to rise from the Ip asset during its anticipated economic life. That means, how much income will be there during the time period of that particular Ip asset. This is your income based method. Now, there are many income based valuation methods which are commonly used. These are discounted cash flow method, relief from royalty method, rule of thumb, that is 25% rule, options pricing technique which is also known as the Black-Scholes method and the Monte Carlo approach. Now, the second technique which is used for Ip valuation is the qualitative method. The qualitative method helps in the comparing and ranking of the Ip within the portfolio of the company or against any competitor's Ip. It helps in assessing the uncertainties and various opportunities connected with that particular Ip asset. Two commonly used qualitative methods are Prism method and Ip score method. Now, learners, let us move forward and understand what we mean by creating and managing a commercial strategy. IP commercialization means bringing the IP to the market. Now, there is an essential requirement of proper use of IP assets. These should be used in more relation oriented manner rather than in business oriented mode. These assets should be used to build up relations and coordination with other industries instead of excluding them from entering the market. So, an IP should be used in such a manner that it leads to addition of revenue, acquiring new knowledge, assessing latest R&D facilities, which opens the whole new possibilities for innovation. That means, if you have an IP asset, rather than stopping the others from using it, we should try to commercialize it and we should try to use it in a positive manner. This is what we mean by creating and managing a commercial strategy. Now, the IP asset can be commercialized in different ways. If you see, this figure depicts the different ways in which an IP can be commercialized. The first and foremost is direct use of the owner. Second one is through assignment. Next method is by licensing. Now, licensing can be further of two types, non-exclusive and exclusive. Exclusive is further divided into exclusive type licensing and sole licensing. Other two techniques are through partnership and through trade secret. The partnership can also be further, it can be business partnership, it can be a joint venture, or it can be in the form of spin-off. So, these are the various ways, techniques by which an IP can be commercialized. Now, we will try to understand these different techniques. Now, first is commercialization of the IP directly by the owner. The best way for the owner of IP rights is to turn his intellectual property and create the product, market it and sell it, which will turn into a profitable business and will be a source of revenue. Now, learners, let us take an example. Suppose an owner designs a smartphone. Then he develops a software for it and also designs a packaging box for it, and also he gives it a name. Now, if you see, each of these activities can be protected by the various intellectual property rights. These rights can be a patent, it can be a design, registration of industrial design, it can be a trademark. So, the rights, all these rights would be owned by the owner. Now, if he stops here and he has taken some IP rights and does not commercialize it, the work will be stopped here only. Now, what can be done? The owner can now convert his IP assets by manufacturing the smartphone, installing the software, packing it in the box and putting his own trademark. That means using all the IP assets and commercializing the smartphone. Through this, all the profits, all the benefits will be owned by the owner. So, the second technique is commercialization of the IP through an assignment. Now, what is an assignment? An IP assignment refers to the transfer of an IPR ownership, like a patent, from the original inventor, who will be known as the assigner, to some another party which will be known as an assignee. Now, hence the new owner of the intellectual property is the assignee. The assignment may involve certain type of participation in the revenues for some time of the assigner. That means the assigner can give his inputs for some time. However, the basic responsibility is now lies with the assignee, the new party which has taken the assignment. Now, this type of commercialization is a good option for the IP owner to commercialize, especially in those cases when the owner does not have enough financial resource for marketing the developed asset, or in certain cases when the owner wishes to market its product immediately and want to take some financial benefit. The third technique is through licensing. Another common method used for commercialization is through license agreement. A license is basically a contract through which the IP owner, known as the licensor, gives permission for use of the IP to another person who is known as the licensee within the provisions of limits set through the contract. So, through the contract, rights are given from the licensor to a new owner known as the licensee. Now, a major advantage of this type of contract is that the licensor keeps the contact with the licensee and he can keep on providing his inputs for the implementation of the IP asset and can also help in the commercialization of the product. That means the inputs of the licensor are still intact with the licensee. In fact, both the parties, that is the licensor as well as the licensee, have an added advantage, as the licensor does not have to invest in the marketing or distribution and the licensee does not have to invest in the research and development part, and also saves money by not buying the IP before knowing the market's response. Now, this licensing is of different type. The first one is known as the exclusive license. Exclusive license is further of two types, exclusive or sole. In case of exclusive license, the licensor grants the license with the full right of exploitation on the IP. It means the licensor has no right over the use of its own IP. That means all the rights are now with the new owner. In the second type, that is sole type, even though the licensee has the full and exclusive right to exploit or use the IP, the licensor, that means the original inventor, also retains the right to use and exploit the IP directly himself if he wishes. So, he still has the rights. In the second type of license, that is non-exclusive license, in this type of agreement, only limited rights are granted to the licensor and the licensee can also negotiate further non-exclusive licenses with other companies. In addition, the licensor can also directly use the IP. So, this is the non-exclusive type of license. Now, another method of commercialization is through partnership. Now, in partnership, negotiation and contracting is done with other parties. Most often, the research done in universities are stimulating for the industries. Though the university research is mostly known to be having less mature technologies and are associated with higher risk with the probability of higher failure rate, even then the industry partners with the academic research to add on to their internal R&D efforts. Now, different forms of partnership are through business partnership, through spin-offs or through joint ventures. In case of a business partnership, it means a collaboration between the universities, technology transfer offices and industries and their mutual agreement to commence the commercial activity along with its economic risk of commercialization, the IP. The second form of a partnership is spin-offs. Spin-offs are the legal entities which are created by the parent organization but are separated with the objective of bringing its IP assets into the market. Recently, many spin-offs have flourished and have been successfully created by academic institutions and research institutions. One of the major advantages of spin-offs is that the parent organization, which is mostly not a commercial entity and hence unable to commercialize its IP, outsources them all the marketing and distribution activities. And another form of partnership is through joint ventures. Joint ventures, as the name implies, are business alliances, establishment of partnership relationships among two or more enterprises who work in unison for the achievement of a common goal and sharing the related risks as well as outcomes. Basically, two or more aligns two or more people or companies come together and they make a single venture and work together for that particular single venture. This is what we mean by joint venture. The next one is trade secrets. Trade secret refers to proprietary information having commercial application and value. A trade secret can be a trade secret of a formula, a product, process, design, some instrument, some pattern, commercial method or information which is not disclosed to others, by which a business has an economic advantage over its competitors. Through trade secrets, the owners have an advantage over its competitors who do not have the proprietary information. That means the owner himself uses the IPs and he himself commercializes that particular product. Now, dear learners, let us understand what we understand by patent aggregation. According to Economic and Scientific Advisory Board ESAB, patent aggregation is defined as the process of collecting patents from multiple entities and bringing them under the control of one entity or party. Aggregation basically means addition, collection of all these at a single place. This is what we mean by patent aggregation in simple words. Now, different types of patent aggregation are, first of all, we have patent pools. Now, a patent pool is a consortium of industries and companies who collect and group their patents together for the purpose of licensing a particular technology. They will collect all the patents of that particular technology at one place. Next, we have patent brokers. These are the firms that facilitate patent transactions. They provide assistance to the patent owners to sell their assets in exchange of financial benefits. That means when the patent owners wish to sell their assets, IP assets. Now, they often propose financial products and services related to the intellectual property, such as a patent portfolio auctions or patent portfolio ratings and valuation or creation of public stocks indices based upon the portfolio quality. The next type we have is practicing entities. Practicing entities refer to the entities that are active on the product market as well as on the technology market. They are strong enough to produce their own patent portfolios using own R&D, and on the other hand can buy or aggregate patent portfolios from other firms. In case of the next type, that is non-practicing entities, non-practicing entities are also called investment vehicles dedicated to exploiting the patents. These are mostly involved in creation or acquisition of individual patents or patents owned by different industries, academic and research institutes, and compile them into industry focused portfolios. Now, they may either develop them or might not develop them further. So, basically they are collecting this all, and it is not important that whether they will, it is not essential whether they will develop it or they might not develop it. Now, different types of non-practicing entities are either privately or state funded, they are either assertive or non-assertive. Now, the question is, why has patent aggregation emerged? The emergence of patent aggregation may be linked to an upsurge in the patent markets. Here, patent markets refer to the exchanges, that means buying, selling and sharing of patents and or licenses between the parties. So, due to an upsurge or due to an increase in this patent markets, there is a need of patent aggregation. Another major factor is the technology convergence. Different technologies are now being combined to make complex products. This has led to an increased level of knowledge sharing between the different entities. Now, learners, there are both benefits as well as drawbacks of the patent aggregation for the patent owners, for the users of the patents and technology, as well as for the consumers and society. For these details, kindly refer to the e-content of this particular unit, and also the details of others are given in the e-content of this unit. So, thank you all.